Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm Mayor Cal Sheehy, joined by City Manager Jessica Knudsen.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Today is Friday, April 4th, and we're so glad to have you all here. What we'll do is we'll give you an update on what's happening in Lake Havasu City, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have about anything that we discussed or anything else that might be on your mind going forward. So we'll get right into it. We've had a lot of road work going on throughout our community. It's a different obstacle course each day, sometimes each hour that you are in our area. But it is coming to a close. We'll be wrapping that up in the next several days. But Jess, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it now.
Yeah, so a whole lot happening, right? And so we have lots of conversations about our roads need repair, they need some work, they need some love, and this is what happens when we do that. So really appreciate everyone's patience as we kind of go through the road construction season, if you will. The reason why it's happening now is temperatures. Temperatures are very, very important when we lay down the treatments, if it's a chip seal to a certain degree. But the product you're seeing that's disrupting the community the most is a product called HA5. It's a vendor that we use called Holbrook Asphalt, HA, and then their product is called HA5. That is something that we put down after the new asphalt is laid down. We come back at a later time, and we put a sealant. So that's what this is. It's a sealant on the road that helps protect the road and extend the life of the investment that the city made into that road network. It's a great product. We love it. The tragic portion of this is when we lay it down. We spray it, and you can't touch it for 24 hours. So that's what's happening out there. We had the contractor come in and said, you know what, we're just going to close the road down from here to here for 24 hours. We'll spray it. We'll be out of your hair. We'll be done, and it'll be over with. Well, how are people going to get on the island? How are people going to get traversed through the community? How do we keep our businesses open and access to the businesses for our residents? So that's what you're kind of seeing lane splitting, where we do the two outside lanes and the inside lanes. So lots of cones, lots of road construction when it comes to HA5. But and again, it comes down to weather. Actually, was it Tuesday this week that was a little cool in Havasu? We couldn't spray the HA5 on Tuesday on that day because the temperatures were too cool and the product would not cure properly, and we just wouldn't have a good product at the end of the day. And that's not how we spend taxpayer dollars. Again, just thanks for your patience. We're actually probably going to be researching to see if there's a similar product out there with a less of a cure time, because 24 hours off a road is asking a lot from the community. But hopefully everyone's got short-term memory, and by next week we're just going to be talking about how great the roads are, and we'll forget about all that road construction that occurred in the last week or two. So.
Yeah, and it obviously looks fantastic. So if you've had the HA5 applied on a road that you travel on, it looks really great when it's done. And we've gotten really good feedback from our citizens that are riding on that area. It's nice and smooth, it looks good, and it also limits the number of roads that we're having to put chip seal on. So it's a balance of what we're trying to do. When you think about weather, you think of Havasu having great weather, but we really have like maybe 6 weeks a year that we can apply these types of treatments, a few weeks in the spring and then a few weeks in the fall. So sensitive that, as just mentioned, on one day this week, the weather was less than we expected and we couldn't do any application whatsoever. So really sensitive, but it obviously makes our roads look great. We joke sometimes because everyone's like, fix our roads. And then we fix the roads. Everyone's like, don't fix the roads. I can't get through. So again, thank you for your patience. We'll be wrapping that up, like I said, in the next several days. And as Jess said, hopefully that people will love it and we'll be able to continue to do more in our next year's plan as well. So really great things. There also was a traffic control change that just occurred this last week. That is on Riviera between South Palo Verde and Mesquite at the Pima intersection. So if you're traveling in that area, there for the last probably 60 days, there was a sign saying that the traffic change was coming. And then there was the signs erected this week. And now there's also signs saying that there's a traffic change. So just use caution when you're in that area. But obviously that was done based on need and traffic of trying to get out of there. Residents that live on Pima or use Pima on a regular basis would tell stories about they just could not get out of their neighborhood. So that is a change over there, again, on Riviera between South Palo Verde and Mesquite. Again, just use caution in that area.
If I can, Mayor, maybe tee that up. I get lots of requests that come to my office, come to the city team, and obviously through council as well, too, or We need to change the speed limit. We need to put up a stop sign. We need to do some type of traffic control within my neighborhood, right? Sometimes we live on the shortcuts in Lake Havasu, where you see lots of traffic or excessive speed. All of that has to be data driven. So in this instance that you're describing with the new stop signs that went up, that's all based on traffic counts. We go back and look at the crash reports and what's occurring there, and then we look at the national standards to determine whether or not a crosswalk is needed, a stop sign is needed, or a change in speed limit is needed. So it's very, very important that you don't have like myself or the mayor or anybody on the city's staff just walking around and going, okay, stop sign over there, speed limit over here. We truly cannot do that. That's not a good practice for the city. So it's all based on data and standards to make those determinations. And sometimes we can do a quick little study. And by study, I mean our public works crews are out there monitoring the situation for a day or two, getting some traffic counts, and then all of that is used to determine whether or not an improvement or a change is required.
And the reason we have to use national standards is when you go to an area, we don't just drive in Lake Havasu City as residents here. We travel to other places as well. And so there's commonalities that people have. And if every community did speed and traffic different, it would not make our roadways very safe. So that combination together, there's been times where we've had residents come forward and say, hey, we need this, or this is an unsafe intersection, and the data just doesn't support that. And so we can't make that change. But in this case, we were able to. So we had some discussion starting back in our planning session, which is kind of like the kickoff for the city council and the city team to be able to start talking about the budget process. Jess and his team start much sooner, but that's the first time the council gets involved in it. And during that discussion, we talked about our sewer bonds. So just as a little bit of history, Lake Havasu City undertook one of the largest municipal bonds at the time to sewer our community. We had no sewer infrastructure to speak of within our community. And in the late 1990s, early 2000s, the conversation throughout the community and from the request of the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality really were putting pressure for us to do something for our wastewater. When we did that, we went to a vote of the citizens, and the citizens elected to go ahead and do a bond initiative for over $400 million to lift up all of our streets, put down sewer infrastructure, and some additional sewer or wastewater treatment plants as part of that. That process then started in 2002, and it went all the way to about 2012 or so. And it did come in under budget. It also came in under time schedule, which was fantastic. Both of those things occurred. But we then were left with paying for that bond initiative that we had. It ended up being in the $330 million, roughly, at the end of the day. And so we refinanced that debt in late 2014, just to allow for the payments to be less and also spread out the payments for the life of the infrastructure. So today's residents weren't paying for the usage for future residents. So everyone would equally pay their share whenever they entered into the system. Because at the time, the system was built for the planned growth, whatever that would look like, but planned growth. So additional folks would be coming into the system. Now, that was 10 years ago, and now that those initial refinance bonds were able to be callable after 10 years, Jess and his team took a look at interest rates and would it make sense for us to look at a refinancing, and it did make sense. And so, Jess, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what you and your team went through to bring forth to the council for the final approval.
Yeah, first of all, this is Jill Olson. She is our Admin Services Director, and she's fantastic. She came up with the concept and looking at our bonds. So we have which is the debt that the city has when it comes to our sewer system, as you described, Mayor. And we got a couple of different pockets of the debt, right? So we're looking at the ones that are callable, which means that the city sells bonds, where the investor purchases the bonds, and then we have to hold those bonds per the regulations or what's outlined in the bond requirements. So in this case, some of the bonds, a big bulk of the debt that was represented by these bonds were callable after 10 years. So 2015 issued, we're talking about 2025. Now we can call those bonds and then do something very, very similar to what you might see with maybe with the interest rate in your home and getting a better interest rate with maybe a property or home that you have. So the markets are a little turmoil that's happening out there right now. If you're holding stock and watching some of the news and seeing what's happening out there too, but we think now is a good time. We've started the process. It's not official here for a couple weeks, and we can share that news once it's official and finalized. But we went to the market, and we think we got a rate that's going to impact us, where we're able to invest those dollars, the savings that we receive, we'll invest those dollars back into our wastewater system, something that is desperately needed for the city to maintain the services that we have. So part of this process, I was very, very proud of Jill Olson, our admin team, and everything that they're doing there. And really across the board in terms of how we handle our operations, our projects, our finances. We had two national companies that came to us. One was S&P, and I'll think of the other one. It's widely known. They basically come in and they want to ask all the questions. They want to get the documents. They want to look at the financial condition of Lake Havasu City, so then they can share that information with the people that would be purchasing these bonds. For this transaction, we were rated a AAA, which is phenomenal in terms of the financial health and the practices and the policies that we have in place to protect the finances and put ourselves in a really good situation when it comes to projects and financial conditions. So a AAA rating on the transaction really helped us immensely on that. A lot of work, a lot of effort, but we're able to take the dollars that we're paying in interest, keep that local, and put it back into projects. So that it's a very big deal.
It's a huge win for our community. So with the refinance of the debt, the length of the loans remains the same. Nothing changes. Just the interest rate goes down, and roughly about $1 million a year in savings that we'll be able to reinvest back into the wastewater. Of course, those numbers will be finalized once it's all done in the next several weeks, as Jess had mentioned. But just to give you an idea, it's about $1 million a year or so. So really fantastic work. One of the reasons that we were able to do this is that we also had our rating increase in last year. Again, a testament to our admin services team and the leadership that Jess and Jill and our teams do at the city to ensure that we have good fiscal strategies and policies in place. So really exciting news. So more to come. I will tell you the exact savings when it's finalized, but really exciting. The council gave Jess the authority to do it. Obviously, when you're working in a bond market, time is of the essence. And so we had to give authority for Jess and his team to be able to do those things. We did that a couple of meetings ago. So they've been working, trying to understand the crazy market that we're in right now, when the best time is to say yes, because you only get to say yes that one time. So
I said S&P, I meant Moody's was the one that came in.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, we'll move on to the general plan. General plan really is what sets the tone, or is the overarching land use document within Lake Havasu City. The general plan is a real high-level document that tells us and guides all of our planning and zoning. So when folks come in and they say, we need to have this, or we should have this, or we need housing here, the general plan is what we take a look at first. Is that what the citizens looked for? Every 10 years, we have to update the general plan, and the last time that we did that was in 2016. So we start this process. It's about an 18-month process that we get a lot of citizen engagement, a lot of community involvement, different stakeholders come together and take a look at all things that would need to be addressed from a planning perspective over the next 10 years. And so we take into account what our population projections or estimates would be, how those estimates would play out in year 1, 2, 3, 4, where are we going to have houses? Where are we going to have places of worship? Where are we going to have retail? Where are we going to have medical? Do we have enough land holdings? Are the land holdings that we have, are they sufficient for what future growth would be? What would different infrastructure that we'll need that community members need, how do we take that into account? something like charging stations for electric vehicles, if that's a thing. If in 10 years we're flying around like the Jetsons, where do we park those contraptions? Those types of things all have to be taken into account as part of that process. When we do that, it goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission. It then has to be approved by the City Council, and then it has to be ratified by the voters and citizens of our community. So a very long and in-depth process, but that's just a general overview. Just if you want to talk about what you and your team are doing in that process, including the action that'll be in front of City Council on Tuesday.
Sure. Yeah, lots happening behind the scenes, and we bring in a professional to come in and guide that process for us. Logan Simpson is who the city contracted with for this effort. It's about a 15-month project and so forth. So we've right now we're working diligently to get all the documents and details and studying the successes and the failures of our existing general plan. How can we improve on where we're at right now, and then trying to set the stage, which we'll see at the next council meeting on Tuesday, on the public information portion of the general plan. How are we going to engage our residents? How are we going to engage our business community, others within the community that have a stake or a passion for the development and future of Lake Havasu City? So there'll be a couple different options on what that looks like. Probably the biggest opportunity there is what we're creating as a steering committee. So this is largely made up of our residents, business owners, and residents and leaders in the community, and we'll be engaging them on a regular basis on the future of the general plan as it evolves, as it unfolds over the next many months, over the year plus. So and then we'll have different interviews that will be out there, but it's really a lot of data collection that's occurring right now. We want to learn as much as we can, more than what we know now, study it and focus on some of the things that are in there. I know one of the things we have with our existing general plan, if you come to a council meeting and you're looking at like a rezone for a property, is that there a significant amount of the time you're seeing two actions. One is a minor change of the general plan, and for an application for the property owner. Then you're seeing another application coming for a rezone of the property. In large part that's occurring because the existing general plan, when it was adopted, we put conditions over the existing zoning that was different than what's out there. So we want to plan these things and how they look and how they feel across the community. But if something is zoned residential and the general plan says it should be retail, there's a lot of steps that take place in terms of application process and checks and balances that have to occur. So we just want to be cognizant of that. There's certain areas within the community that we want to say that, hey, that has to be this from a land use designation, and setting that framework for many steps to take place for that to change in any other way. We're getting kind of into the details, but some of those conversations will take place over the next year plus, and we're going to really rely on our residents to help guide that process. And in the end, it'll be a vote of the community to determine whether or not this is the general plan that Lake Havasu City should adopt and take into account and guide the process for the city and for our residents for the next 10 years afterwards.
So we hear oftentimes about growth, and we can't handle the growth. Too many people are coming here, or now that I moved here, let's close the gates. Those types of things from people. You see a lot of that fodder on social media. You see a lot of it through the media, and the general plan is what helps us manage those areas. So really, the city and the city council are managing the growth, making sure that we're planning for the future, because the vacant land that you might park your car on when you go to a Main Street event, or the parcel that you walk your dog in that's vacant within your neighborhood, somebody owns that. And so it's not just held there in perpetuity for the use of you to walk your dog on it or park your vehicle at a Main Street event. And so when somebody owns that and then they so choose to do something with it, they certainly have to follow the zoning that is associated with that property, but they have that right as a property owner to do what it is that they're looking for. Again, matching the zoning. They also have a right to have a public process to change that use. And so that's when you go through the Planning and Zoning Commission and potentially the council, generally the council as well, for that land use change, should that make sense. But the land use change only happens based on the guiding principles of the general plan. So if the growth dictates that roadway needs to be larger, or we need more ingress or egress in the future based on the general plan, those are the guiding planning documents that are used to make sure that we do all of those types of things. So it's a really important process. If you're interested in getting involved, please go to the city website. Follow the city council meeting this Tuesday, the 8th, when we talk about the communication strategy, and get involved in the process, because it really does shape the future of our community for the next decade, which is pretty exciting.
And there'll be a website at the council meeting on the 8th. The presentation will include the new website that's being created for this whole effort. So that's being drafted and finalized right now, and be able to introduce and share that website address with everybody come Tuesday.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. All right, second bridge. It's still working. It's a question that we get quite often on what is happening with the bridge. When is it going to be there? There's a lot of planning stuff that's going on right now. So the city council has authorized the use and hired the planners and the construction folks to put all of the documents together to actually build this piece of infrastructure. Jess, if you want to talk a little bit about you and your team and what you're doing behind the scenes, and what's happening from a planning position before we actually start the construction side of it.
A lot is happening in the background, right? So we have the design team, we have the bridge design team, we have the bridge construction team, and we have city staff meeting very regularly, and identifying all the tasks that need to be done. You know, we're getting a lot of work done in terms of the location of the bridge, and all the collaboration, all the conversations, all the discussions that have to take place on the island side, which is a perpetual lease, prepaid lease the city paid with the state land department, but we're working with them on trying to adjust the property lines that were identified several years ago, and moving it, adjusting it so the bridge span would be a little bit shorter, resulting in savings for the project. And then we're working with the state parks on the mainland side, which obviously a lot of events and activities happen at that location, and we want to make sure that we are doing our best to minimize any negative impacts, and maybe identifying some positive impacts along the way to better enhance that area as well too. So lots of work being done there. Lots of work trying to figure out in terms of a little bit of the location for pylons and what that means in terms of the construction of the bridge. Lots of work in terms of identifying all the utilities, the water, the wastewater, the effluent lines that are in there, and how many of those can we route through the bridge during the time of construction. And then we have road networks, right, that we have to take a look that connects the bridge, either on the island side or London Bridge Road on the mainland side. And then those connections there are going to have impacts further down the line. So we're looking at improvements that we're going to have to take place on Palo Verde South, on the lakeside of 95, because the traffic will be coming off that area to access this bridge. And then off of the Mesquite side on the other side of where we're coming in. So it's not just building a bridge and then here we go, but there's what's the behaviors that are going to happen and take place once that bridge goes into place, and making sure that we have a road network that's going to be able to accommodate that. And you know, we got that bridge coming off over the channel onto the mainland side. We're going through the state parks area, and then we're trying to make that connection right to London Bridge Road. And you know, what does that look like to make sure that we have access on both directions for London Bridge Road? We still have access to the state park, and you know, doing the best that we can along those lines. So we have more to come. We'll be able to present a little bit more here shortly. We try to tee it up as much as we can. And then, like Havasu City, just like anybody else that's doing work in the waterway, we hit pause in the entire project. We fill an application, we submit it to the Coast Guard, and then we patiently wait for 6 or 12 months for that review to take place, and any comments that may come with that review. So a lot of agencies, a lot of outside agencies, and on the federal side, on the state side that we're working with to get the project going as well too. And then obviously working the best way we can to build something we can be proud of, but it's going to be cost effective in terms of the use of our dollars.
So over the years, we've talked about a second bridge in some form since the 1970s. It's been a really long time. So you would think, wasn't all this work done already? So different components of it were. The right-of-way on the island was taken care of in the mid-2000s. The right-of-way on the mainland side was handled in like 2018 or so. Lots of different alignments at the time. But now that you actually have the ability to build something, that is where these construction documents are coming into play, where this is actually where the bridge is going, this is where the pilings are going, this is what the cost will be. And none of this would even be possible if it was not for the leadership of Representative Biasucci, now Supervisor Borelli, and Representative Gillette, who really championed the money at the state level. So $35.5 million was appropriated from the general fund of the state of Arizona for this project. So we'll be using state dollars to be able to get this project done. We have those monies allocated already, and it's moving forward for development. So completion date, which is what everyone always wants to do, is late, like 4 or 5 years down the road. It's like 29 or so, 2029, but more to come on that.
So, and part of that too, and I appreciate that too. We're in the business of overpromise or underpromising and over-delivering. So we're going to do our best to meet that timeline, but there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. So, but we'll get there. We will get there.
Let's also talk about another infrastructure project, which is the Main Street Commons, which is the downtown gathering area at Quario and McCulloch. It's nearing completion, where we'll be opening that for residents and citizens to be able to use on a regular basis. It'll be open in time, hopefully for Desert Storm, unless something has changed recently.
It will open for Desert Storm.
So it'll be open for Desert Storm. You might see the sod has been placed in this last week. When it does open, it's going to be an area for our citizens to be able to gather, for events to occur down in the downtown area. But it will also have future iterations that will come. So when it first opens, it will not have a concession stand area, and it also will not have bathrooms. But those will be coming in the fall. When we did the contract or awarded the bid for the contract, it was just too expensive, and we knew that we could do it for less money if we were able to do it ourselves. So we'll be circling back to do that as we come. And then, like any of our park amenities in Lake Havasu City or our outdoor recreational areas, it'll continue to grow in different aspects as users start using the facility and people that have passion projects have an interest in doing something. We'll take all those things into consideration. You all heard me talk about Rotary Park. When it first opened, it is nothing like it is today. So it went from Mudshark Beach, which is kind of a rugged area with growth and vegetation, to a grass area with ball fields, and now it has workout around one of the area, workout routine around one of them. It has bocce ball, it has volleyball, it has playground, it has swing sets, it has the skate park. I mean, it just continued to grow as different users have done it, and every single park is that same way in Lake Havasu City. So Dick Sam Park opened as a Little League. Now it's also the pickleball courts. If you just think of one park and think of what it was originally built as, and now the use that it's happening just today, which will change, of course, as recreational users have different needs in the future or different passion projects. But again, this project would not have been even able to happen had it not been for the America's Best Community Competition, which started all the way back in 2015. Where we went through a variety of different rounds, but at the end of the day, Lake Havasu City was a $2 million grand prize winner from the America's Best Community program, and we were able to champion 3 main projects. One was this Main Street Commons area. The other one is actually just adjacent to this property, which is Nomadic. It's the co-working location that is managed and brought to life by the Partnership for Economic Development. And then a third was an environmental learning center, which has not gotten legs on it. There's some needs for it, but we've been able to take what the original plan was and be able to splinter off different areas of uses, such as our water quality lab that you'll hear about more in the future, and some of those other areas. But back to the downtown, or the Main Street Commons, excuse me. It's a new name. I was calling it Downtown Catalyst for 7 years now. So Main Street Commons, what happened was we used the ABC monies to help build it, which is $1 million of the $2 million that we won in that competition. And then we were able to get grants. And so nearly 94% of this entire project is paid for with either the winnings from the competition or grants that we received to be able to move that forward. So really exciting project that we can all be proud of. It is surprising when you go down there and you just drive McCulloch or that Main Street area, and you're like, oh, the lot looks pretty flat. It looks like it's really usable and easy to get onto. It took 880 dump truck loads of dirt just to level that out. So it was a pretty difficult spot when we had craft fairs or other gatherings there for folks to be able to traverse it with a walker or a wheelchair or a stroller, any of those types of things. But now it's going to be very accessible and easy for everyone to get into, including the event promoters that are using that facility. There'll be electricity for them. There will be really well thought out and planned amenities for the promoters that are using the facility, and then the users that go to whatever it is that promoter is putting on. So pretty exciting about that. It opens at the end of the month.
It'll be open in this form for Desert Storm. So please come out and take a look at everything that's there. One of the exciting aspects is you see a lot of the poles that are up in that area. Each one of those poles it has the electrical capabilities for a vendor to come in, plug right in, no generator needed, and serve anything that they need to plug in from that perspective, a variety of different outlets. So that's very, very exciting, able to accomplish that. You see it for the metal shade structures that are up, and we'll be coming back at a later time, probably September is when we'll be thinking about like the concession building, restrooms, and then we're going to do something a little bit different with the remaining poles and the shade structure. But we want to have lots of shade down in that area. Lots more to come with that area. You mentioned a little bit about the ABC dollars. The total construction for Money Pit Park, for the Main Street Commons. I laugh a little bit about that because it's $2.7 million in construction, $1 million from ABC dollars, $1 million in an Arizona State Parks grant, $700,000 from WIFA. We paid for the entire construction of that project with outside dollars and with grant dollars for Lake Havasu City. And now we're working with the PED, Partnership for Economic Development, with Lake Havasu, on some contributions coming from them, $200,000 each, to help us with the concession building. And Anthony Kozlowski, Vijay Sari are also working on possibly another grant of $500,000 that we can bring into that area and stuff too, to completely pay for Main Street Commons with dollars that we're working very, very hard to bring into the community to accomplish that.
So they just slipped with one of the entries for our naming contest.
Yeah.
That was one of, we had over 500 of them. When we finally got to Main Street Commons, it was a citizen that had selected that name. So went through 500 submissions or whatnot. From there, then it was selected down to about 10 or so that then were put back out to the community for the final selection. And that's how we got to here. But that was one of the more comical ones that came through.
Yeah, no, it was an intentional slip. It's one of those things that just kind of drives us to strive and do better and understand that the community expects us to do things the right way and how we spend dollars. And it's one of the motivators that we have to accomplish it in the way that we're accomplishing it. But yes. Yeah.
So we have a pretty robust grants program and a grants department that over the last several years we've been working on ensuring that we're able to utilize and seize opportunities that might present themselves from a grant perspective. And we have one that we're really proud of that just happened, as just mentioned, through the leadership of Assistant City Manager Anthony Kozlowski and Vijay Sari, our grants manager. They have been able to find these opportunities, and this one has to do with Rotary Park. It's a really well-used park. If you're down there at any time, it is always busy. So I happen to use it on the weekends when I am not working. And I went down there for Team Break. It was a couple of weeks ago that our Parks and Rec team was putting on. So I went down to, it must have been a Tuesday or Wednesday. shocking at 11 o'clock the number of users, the same amount of users that are there on Saturday and Sunday are there on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and the same mix. So young families using the playground areas, residents that are using it for exercise, other folks just recreating. But it is in need of improvement. As I explained a little bit earlier, as when we first opened Rotary Park and some of our other parks, they opened in one iteration, and then we just built onto them. So because of that, there's some awkward spaces that you might have a sidewalk that goes from 4 or 5 feet wide all the way, and then it goes down to just 2 feet wide. You can't even walk shoulder to shoulder with the person you're next to. And some of that's just awkward because of the way that park grew. Or there's really tight right angles on the sidewalks that you are walking straight, and all of a sudden you have to make a complete left. So not the most user friendly, but at the time, again, it made sense because we just kind of added on to the area. Well, this grant's going to help fix some of that at Rotary Park. So, Jess, if you want to talk a little bit about what the grant's going to allow us to do and what the improvements our citizens will see.
We talked a little bit on that grant application, a lot about ADA accessibility, right? And then that so we want to make sure we have a very keen eye towards any improvements that we do in that area to make sure it's accessible for all. And but we're looking at curb, sidewalk improvements. We're looking at repaving the parking lot down in that area, improving some of the utilities down in that area, and then a small restroom located over in that area as well too, right off the south end of the channel. So lots of improvements to kind of improve that area. Thank you to Arizona State Parks. We acquired this through a SLIF grant, State Lake Improvement Fund. We talked a lot about these at the coffee. These were put in place by Leo Biasucci, who is helping us in lots and lots of ways, and this is one of them. So almost $1 million that we received through this grant to improve that area, and then we're going to be asking for more dollars from SLIF as well too to add on to this project and complement this project for the area, and looking at a large splash pad area out by Rotary Park at where the old RC Park was, or the south end of the channel on the Rotary Park side. And be able to add that amenity for the kids and provide some activities for them. They've done something similar up in Bullhead, and we're looking at the success that they've had up there with the users and the feedback that's been received. We hear a lot from parents in the community about things for our kids to do, so that checks goes towards checking that box. There's more that we can do, and we're thinking about those things. But so utilizing SLIF grants. And to improve the Rotary Park area with an eye towards the next phase would be looking at something more for the kids in the community.
So this project will be fantastic. It'll have opportunities for the future, as just mentioned, for families and folks to enjoy. And then our daily walkers, it'll make it easier for them. It'll widen some of the sidewalk area. So really great improvements, and we're really excited about this grant and what it's going to mean for all of the users down in that area. Mm-hmm. So we'll move on to some thresholds. So we have a meeting on Tuesday, the council meeting on the 8th. So if you'd like to join us, 5:30 in the same room here at the courthouse. But we'll be talking about thresholds. City Council had a discussion in our planning session back in January. We then had our first read or our first discussion about it at our last council meeting. And then we're coming in for a discussion and potential final adoption of this. And so we talked earlier about the great work that our Admin Services Director, Jill Olson, and her team do in finance. And so in finance, they are responsible for lots of things. So how do we pay our bills? How do we pay payroll? How do we purchase things? All of these different aspects come into play, which when you think about it, if you need something for your home or a home repair, you just go to the store and you purchase what you need to be able to make that repair that you might have. Or you might also plan a bigger project. You might think, okay, I'm going to need an AC in a year or two. I might need new windows in 4 or 5 years. Or I might need to paint my house at a certain time, and you start planning for it. So we do those same things at the city. We call it a CIP plan, or a capital improvement plan. We plan out 5 years, and the city council adopts a 5-year CIP plan each and every year. It identifies what we're going to need throughout the entire organization, and we come down and we start to do that. That's our planning side. But then we also have just our operations. So how do we repair a broken curb in a certain area? How do we sweep the streets? How do we just the general things that we do, and that requires us to be able to purchase things. So currently, if anyone on our team at the city needs to purchase anything that's over $50,000, they have to come before the city council for approval. This is already after the council has approved the budget. So that we've already approved the budget. We know that spending is going to occur, but it's just a second check from the council. There's 100 checks before it even got to us at that level, but it comes before the city council. But the discussion had occurred with our team with inflation and the cost of the projects that we're needing to do, that maybe we need to change that threshold. The council, in the initial discussions at our planning session, said, yes, that's worth taking a look at. Let's do that. And then what the iteration of that, or the ordinance that is in front of us, then came before us at our last meeting. So when we do that threshold, that gives the city manager, so Jess, the ability to purchase anything $50,000 or less. Jess then authorizes his team, his department directors and others to purchase things, but their thresholds are less. And so what this does in the big picture is it allows us to increase the threshold to $100,000. So if it's $100,000, it would still come to the city council for additional approval thresholds. It would allow the city manager's office to approve anything up to $100,000, but it would allow the folks that are on the front lines that actually need to run to the hardware store or to the plumbing store to be able to go and do that without slowing down that process. So I talked about that in real layman terms, so I'm going to turn it over to Jess to talk about a little more detail of what that would look like.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's all about how the city makes purchases, right? And what that looks like to make sure that we're doing it the right way, with enough eyes on it, and then we're abiding by all of the rules and regulations that are out there that come from us on the state level, because the state's got lots of state laws that tells us how we can make certain purchases in certain ways. And then every year we have new legislative bills that say if it's a professional service, you treat it this way, and if it's a barbershop, you treat it this way, and if you did this, you treat it that way. So there's so much out there. So without getting into the weeds too much, that there is a huge process. So when I talk to the team, and the example that I keep on talking about, because it's really what kind of spurred the entire conversation from the onset, is the ability for the city to purchase an AC unit. So we have an AC unit over at the police department. It's starting to fail. We need to get it replaced. Let's get that replaced. Summer's coming. We want to make sure that the people in that building aren't sweating the entire day. So I talked to Public Works and the maintenance that's in charge of making that happen. All right, we'll start the process. We'll get that done. A week later, it's like, okay, where's that AC unit? Have we ordered it yet? Nope. We have to go through all these steps and processes that are part of the state system, but also part of our internal rules and regulations that are tied to it. For a purchase of more than $5,000, we have to have at least 3 emailed bids coming back to the individual that's buying that AC unit. If we're always going with that one vendor because they're the ones that are doing really good service for us and delivering it on products cheaper than the other 2, it's really hard for us to get a quote from the other 2 every single time. So some of those conversations literally are like, if you were a small business owner or a resident, you would do the due diligence, you'd get some quotes, you'd call around, you'd make sure you're making the right purchase. You could do that in a day or 2 and then make the call and schedule the service. 6 weeks later is the time frame that it takes the city right now under the existing rules and regulations we have to purchase an AC unit. Those are the things that drive me bonkers, right? You hear a lot of that sentiment too. It's like, why can't the city be more like a business? Well, because it takes us 6 weeks to buy an AC unit. All the time and attention and resources it takes just to get across that line, involving multiple departments, multiple divisions, and reaching out to the small businesses and Havasu and saying, hey, we know we're not going to give you the business, but could you send us an email with a quote? Like, they look at us like we're a bunch of weirdos because we are on that time frame. So we're trying to speed up a little bit in terms of what happens on the bottom end of the procurement process. So there's a code that the council adopts, and then based on that code that the council adopts, we have an internal policy that the staff puts together and the staff follows to make sure that there's multiple eyes on everything that we purchase, but something that can happen much more streamlined, much more efficient in terms of us getting across the finish line, buying the tools, buying the equipment, and the necessary improvements for our park system, our facilities, up and down the organization with the different purchases that take place. This does not take away our ability, and we're mandated to make sure that we're spending the dollars wisely. So this is not like an open check and like, oh great, it goes up, so we can just start throwing dollars out of our pockets and spending capriciously. That's not how this happens. We will do our due diligence just like anybody else would with the dollars that they have. And for us, it's even more important because we're using taxpayer dollars. We have to be even more diligent with these efforts. But this conversation started a couple years ago with trying to improve our ability to make purchases. And why is it taking 6 weeks? Why is it taking 50 hours of staff time to buy an AC unit? That AC unit's pretty expensive when you put all the things that are tied to it. So we're just trying to do a better job in what that looks like. And obviously, we're talking about thresholds at that level. Then we're talking about the thresholds at the next level. And we have different waves of levels. If it's between this amount, then certain things have to happen. There's a formal bid process at certain thresholds. And then we start talking about it at the council level when it comes to the council's threshold when purchases come through the city. So we're just trying to do a better job, be more efficient with the resources that we have, and doing the best we can from that regard. So that's what we're talking about.
So with all those words, there's people behind it doing things with that.
Yeah.
And so this is truly government efficiency at its best. This would allow our team that we empower to take care of our community the ability to do their job and do it in an efficient manner, still having the checks and balance necessary to ensure we have fiscal responsibility of our finances. And so there's been some great discussions at the council level. We've had great feedback from the community. It's been over 10 years since we've even had the discussion about these and what that looks like. There also was a piece of the council communication that talked about that it also, by making this change, will allow more local companies to be able to participate in the purchasing of, or the supplying of purchases that we have for our needs. Because right now, as just mentioned, they have to fill out, give us a quote for, we need 3 of them, and they know they're not going to get it potentially, so they're not wanting to do it, which means the other folks can charge more. And so we'll be able to be much more efficient to be able to go through this, still have the checks and balances. Again, no expense can occur without it being in the budget. And so we've already had a budget process that we went through. It went through all the approvals all the way up through and including the city manager. So again, that'll be on Tuesday. Will be for consideration of council for final adoption of that policy. If you have an interest or any feedback, please let us know. But again, the whole eye on this is efficiency and to be able to operate in an effective manner. We also are having a discussion on Tuesday about the second pool. We had some discussion, actually it started here at Coffee with the Mayor maybe a year or 2 ago with some citizens that were having challenges using the Aquatic Center. The Aquatic Center has lots of competing uses. So we have swim teams, we have competitive swim, we have exercise, we have lap swim, and it's my understanding that they all want different temperatures based on what you use it for. So if you're a recreational user, you want it to be warm. If you are an athletic swimmer, you need it to be cold. And so there's just lots of uses out there. And this person happened to be a lap swimmer, and there was only one opportunity 3 times a week, I think at 5:30 in the morning or something, that they had the ability to do that. And they wanted to see what we could do to expand it. And then there was someone else in the room that was with one of the competitive swim teams, and they're like, yeah, we need more uses as well. So we started to explore that possibility. We put a placeholder in our CIP budget starting for year 2. So this was last year, so year 2, which would start July 1 of this year. And just to start having the conversation and being more real about the conversation, being intentional. Like, okay, where are we going to put that if we were to do that? What would it cost? What partnerships might exist out there? And all of those elements. At our last council meeting, we had one of the swim teams came to call to the public and had some discussions with the council. Had talked to the council, because we actually can't reply during call to the public since it's not on the agenda. So we just listen intently. At the conclusion of that meeting, Vice Mayor Lynn had asked to put it on the item for a discussion about the second pool. So we'll discuss the second pool on Tuesday, maybe get some background information about the uses, the needs, is it warranted, all of those types of things. And then 2 days later, on the 10th, we will also talk about the second pool during a broader conversation at our first budget work session. So on the 10th, so next Thursday at 9 a.m., again in this room, we'll have our first budget work session focused mostly on our CIP projects, obviously our overall financial picture, and we'll then have that discussion more. And it's my understanding from my conversations with Vice Mayor Lynn is she just wants us to have the information at the Tuesday meeting in order to be prepared for the Thursday meeting. So we'll see how that goes, but I share that with you because it's going to be on the agenda on Tuesday, and I don't want you to read the paper on Wednesday and be like, it's just a coffee with the mayor and city manager. They didn't mention this at all. So we try to cover the things on the agenda that you might see in the news cycle coming forward, and that's one of those items. So again, more to come on that area.
We talk about the lap swimmers are saying, hey, we need more time at the pool. We're talking to the individuals out there that are maybe a part of like a water aerobics class or different activities that take place there. We're talking to the organized team activities like the swim teams and so forth. And then we're talking about just the general admission for our kiddos and those that come to the pool from a general admission perspective. So lots of people, lots of different uses, and we just have more demand for the pool than we have pool. And so then those conversations that come up. Initially, the thought was identifying a number in the CIP for year 2, which would be going into effect on July 1st. So no dollars spent. And no work done that would require any dollars to be spent prior to that time frame. But one of the initial thoughts was looking at the existing footprint of the aquatic center. If you've been there lately, or if you recall that there's an outside area where the old splash pad is, or some grass that's out there, we could put a 25-meter pool on site within the existing parameters and boundaries and the existing setup that's there right now. So that was some of the initial conversations on what that looks like. So a pool right next to the pool, and then we'd have and then utilize the locker rooms and restrooms and other infrastructure that's there. We've also had some conversations to a certain extent with the school district. So a lot of the users of the proposed pool would be the swim team and other users of the pool where they're all students within the school district. So maybe the school district should be part of that conversation as well too. So that's another option that we're working through. And then the thought too is maybe that pool could take place at the aquatic center. Maybe that pool could be constructed over at the school district's property, somewhere maybe by the high school, and they could tap into that for gym classes or other things that would come in handy with the student body that's there. And then we're talking about a partnership between the city and the school district on that project. So you kind of rightfully determined that as a placeholder. So there's dollars in the budget that are effective July 1st. If the council, as we go through the budget process, deems that's still the process that we want to go through. But there's a lot of conversations. So sometimes it's not just straightforward as you identify dollars and you build it and we're done. What if we had conversations with the school district? What if we had conversations with others? How do we partner? How do we build the best pool for the dollars that are afforded to us? And how do we maximize the use for the users and for our residents? So lots of conversation. And so we'll talk about that on Tuesday. And then as you indicated, our first budget work session will take place on April 10th. So a lot of work has gone into this process. The mayor talks about it. You talk about it from the perspective of the mayor and council. That planning session takes place in early February. Our budget process on the city staff side is a 10-month process. So we adopt the budget and it goes into effect in July. We take 2 months off and then we do it all again. So we're working very, very hard on everything that we're going to present to the public and to the mayor and council on April 10th at that first budget work session. We'll have a presentation on the financial overview of the city and the financial health of the city and what that looks like. with always a care and concern for our ongoing revenues versus our one-time revenues, and making sure that we don't mix those two together, because that puts us in a very bad spot in future years. So we'll have all those conversations and then go through all the projects, the CIP, the capital improvement plan, the many projects we have in there, whether it's airport or roads or utilities or parks or PD, and other elements. Obviously the pool is one of those projects as well too. So we'll do an overview of current CIP projects. We'll do an overview of what's proposed for next year, so July 1st through June 30th of the following year for fiscal year 26, and then also talk about the rest of the CIP, or the 4 years that's 4 more years that's proposed in that plan. So a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of effort in terms of, can you imagine from the water and the wastewater experts that we have on staff, is that we're thinking about what do we need in year 5, from 5 years from now, what do we need in order to make sure that we're maintaining the system in a proper way? Roads, parks, all those types of things. We're thinking about those things from a 5-year perspective and trying to lay out that plan. Every year we come back and take a look at that plan again to make sure that we're still on track, and we do that through this process here. But a lot of thought, a lot of big picture perspective that goes into putting this plan forward for the public, for the mayor, and for the city council. So very excited to present that after many days, hours, and months associated with that. Again, Jill Olson, Admin Services Director, Angie Bakken, and Alexi are part of the budget committee that we meet with each department. We go through their needs, not wants. We talk about the needs of each different department. We look at the dollars that are afforded to us, and we make some really tough decisions each and every year on what that means. But all of our dollars within that budget are heavily scrutinized throughout the process, and then we can present that to on the staff level, and then we present that to the public, to the mayor, and to the council, heavily scrutinized at that from that perspective as well too. And then we're slowly getting on our way so we can adopt a budget and put things into place for July 1st. And then we'll come back in May, middle of May, for the second budget work session, and we'll start talking about more of the operations side of things too, the day-to-day stuff within the budget, and we'll make that presentation to the public, to the mayor, and to the city council on what that looks like. So budget season is wrapping up, and I'm ready to kind of present some of those findings and that plan in here next week and the next several weeks.
Yeah, there's lots of discussion in the news right now about government spending and what all that means, and sometimes we don't always equate it to the local level. But there's things we can't spend any money if we don't budget it. One difference between the federal government and the municipal government is we have to have a balanced budget. So our revenues have to meet our expenses. So right from off the bat, what you're hearing on the national news is not even happening in like Havasu City at all, because our frameworks are completely different. We have to, by law, have a balanced budget, which we do. But when we go through the budget process, we make sure that we are, as Jess mentioned, it's our needs, not wants. We start with a form of zero-based budgeting. It's a buzzword you hear in the media. Oh, we need to do zero-based budgeting. That's what we do. So it's a form of it where we take the numbers, and then anything over and above or out of the ordinary is a supplemental request that goes through Jess and his budget team or committee, as he mentioned. So I like to equate that, because sometimes the feedback we get, all of the conversation that we're listening to is very national oriented. Our frameworks are, again, completely different. We don't get to print money. We have to live within our means. We have to plan for the future. We have to ensure that what we're doing is met by the needs of our citizens that are electing us to do so. And another check and balance that we have is go to. And so we run into each other, and you say, hey, what is going on? Why in the world are you guys doing this? Or we need to do this, or let's talk about that. And it's not just me, it's myself and my colleagues on the council and all of the team members at the city, that we all are working together to ensure that the needs of our citizens are met. So One last topic before we open it up to you and your questions is the legislative session is still going on. But we've reached the threshold that no more new bills are introduced, so which is fantastic for us. It's a big sigh of relief because every time that a bill is introduced, it's a new law or regulation that potentially is going to impact each one of us that live here.
It's not good news?
It's not good news,
Okay.
yeah. It's not good news. Yeah. It's funny, they go through and they're like, oh, we had 1,600 bills introduced this year. Like it's an exciting thing. I'm like, that's 1,600 potential regulations or laws that you think that we need as residents. I don't think that that's a good thing. So we have that sigh of relief because we've come over that threshold. The big thing that's looming right now is the budget, and that's really what the discussion is there. Our legislature is mandated to produce a budget, and so they're. When I talked to Representative Biasucci earlier this week, I say they're working on a budget, but they're not even talking right now. So hopefully they'll start talking soon, and we'll get the budget. But there is obviously impacts of that budget on Lake Havasu City as well, and so we're following that very, very closely. But again, we have the sigh of relief that no new bills are coming through, no more committee hearings for those bills to be considered. But very grateful for our legislative leadership in Phoenix with Representative Gillette and Representative Biasucci and Senator Angus. They're really doing great work for Lake Havasu City and our region.
Mayor, we talk about bills and then we track them and we follow them and change our process and so forth. So we talk a little bit jokingly about some of the things that are placed upon us as a city, as residents, with some of the new bills. One new bill we were really hoping for, again, this legislative session that did not happen despite all of our efforts and a lot of the efforts of a lot of cities and towns across Arizona, is no relief when it comes to short-term rentals. So we're always asking each and every year for a short-term rental bill to go into law that would place more responsibility and accountability on Lake Havasu City and all the cities across the state. Give us the tools that we need. Right now the state says, cities, you cannot regulate short-term rentals other than these small little areas over here, and most of them are not useful or downright ridiculous. So each and every year we're saying, give us a little bit more authority to do what we need to do with short-term rentals in our community as we listen to the residents and so forth, and struck out again this year. So we got past the hump. There's no legislation, nothing out there that is going to give us any relief again this year when it comes to short-term rentals. So sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but that's just some of those things we hope for at the beginning of the legislative session, and we encourage them. We have conversations and work as cities and towns and through the League of Arizona Cities and Towns to accomplish some of those things, but we didn't get it this year. So.
Well, we're not giving up. Yeah, we've got the law changed multiple times over the last several sessions, but we're going to get there. We're just
we'll get there.
What we have now is so much better than it was 5 years ago. But we just need to have local control. So I'd like to introduce a couple of my colleagues before we open up for questions. We have Councilmember Cameron Moses joining us. Thank you, Councilmember Moses. And we also have Councilmember David Diaz joining us. Thank you, Councilmember Diaz. And if you would like to join us, Councilmember Diaz is going to take around the microphone. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, and Councilmember Diaz will go. We do need to use the microphone because we have a lot of folks that watch this recording from home at a later date, and they can't hear you if you're not on the microphone.
Mm-hmm. Good morning. So a year ago, on April 5th, I presented this map, which was suggestions for improving signage along the Pima Wash Walkway. So it goes from Acoma, that's that wide concrete path, all the way down to London Bridge Road. So what I noticed is that there's no street signs. So if you're a pedestrian, a tourist, you kind of don't know where you are. And even when you come to McCulloch, there's no sign. So, and now that Main Street Commons will be built, you could even have fun signs like at certain, state parks or whatever, Main Street Commons, 1/2 mile that way. Or, so I was just wondering if there was any kind of status. Did anyone ever look at my suggestion for, improving the signage so people know where they are? And now listening to this meeting, I'm wondering if there's any way to connect this walkway down towards the river, towards Lake Rotary Park. So you have, you can go all the way down to London Bridge, not London,
Havasu Avenue.
to 95, and then there's kind of a sign that you can go this way, but then you're kind of stuck. And you can kind of get to the aquatic center, but I'm wondering in your 5-year plan, if there's some way to connect these improvements in Rotary Park to connect to this great walkway along Pima Wash.
Yeah, no, great question. If you can share that list with us again, I think it's a great suggestion. When you're on Pima Wash, you don't really have a lot of perspective for what intersections you're coming up on and where you're at. But if you had road signs that you're now at the intersection of McCulloch and Pima Wash, yeah, great suggestion. We do have a pedestrian plan that was put together by the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They do traffic modalities throughout our community, and there's expansion for trails and throughout pedestrian access throughout the entire community. And the Pima Wash is part of that. The connection there off of Lake Havasu Avenue, actually, I always stop at Lake Havasu Avenue, so I didn't know it. Does it go to the alley behind?
I think it stops at Lake Havasu Avenue, right? And then you can obviously traverse across the sidewalk. And I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're off microphone. But yeah, you got to wiggle around it. Yeah, like you said, through that area.
Let us look at that. Actually, I've always stopped at Lake Havasu Avenue, so I don't know that piece of it, but we'll look at it for sure.
But obviously, to cross 95, you want to go across a crosswalk and a controlled signal, right? To your point about how would we better improve the connection from there? We've talked about it for several years. It's never gotten to the point where it meets the criteria or priority on the CIP. In terms of projects that are there, we have limited dollars, and there's always projects that fall off. We a list of projects, and we have dollars, and so that's what it entails. But for several years, we have conversations with our MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, and looking at data that would allow us to acquire some federal grants to look at a safe crossing over 95, maybe in connection with the walkway you're talking about. That would either have to be some type of a pedestrian bridge over 95, or or a tunnel. Tunnels come with the bridge comes with a host of benefits and problems, and a tunnel does as well too. But we've been talking about that for several years. But the thought there is that if there's some way to acquire some outside dollars, we could further that conversation to a greater extent. But all good ideas, and we can talk more about that if you have some time afterwards as well too. So I know we have somebody else with a microphone.
I'm so glad you're here because we get to ask the questions and you get to talk to us about it. I come through behind your office to come here this morning, and I noticed there's this great big tower with 2 guys at the top. Tell us about that tower. I know we talked about it a few months ago, but I have forgotten what it was all about. We were half in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, B. Yeah. So there's actually 2 towers that are going up right now within the community. We have everybody has a cell phone these days, and everyone wants that cell phone to always work. And we have citizens that have cell phones that don't work because there's some dead areas within the community. We also have some challenges with public safety, our radio communications system. And so there were 3 towers originally proposed from an outside tower provider, and they mapped out what needed to be done based on the loss of coverage or lack of coverage that we have throughout the community. 2 of the 3 sites went through the public process, and so they went through our planning and zoning our planning and zoning commission, which is appointed by the council, and were granted the ability to put a tower here at City Hall. So it's right behind this building. We're in the courthouse now, right behind this building, and then right across the parking lot from City Hall. On that tower, we have a lease agreement with the company. They will then provide options for carriers to lease space there to put their cell towers to better expand the coverage of cell services. But we also, as a city, are going to get the ability to put some public safety radio communication there as well as part of that lease agreement. That is also occurring over in the Cup Cypress
Mulberry Plant.
Okay, so it's the Mulberry Plant area, which is off of Mulberry and Cypress, kind of in that area. That's occurring as well. And then there still is a void, and it's a really big void, and it needs to get addressed. But we just the developer or the private firm has not found a parcel of land yet over on the south end of our community. And that was the third of the three towers that didn't come before the public process because the citizens in those neighborhoods were engaged and not interested in that. Not that the ones that are over in these neighborhoods have really loved it either, but it impacted less people. And it did go through the public process. I believe there was just a couple of citizens that spoke at those public hearings during that time. But what it will do is it will expand our coverage for cellular service and emergency response radio communications.
City Manager, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It's about time that we had some done work on industrial, since it's has a lot of traffic, commercial vehicles. Now, are you going to go all the way to 95 with that?
So I was driving down Industrial shortly after we started the chip seal on the top half, and all I could think about was you, because we've had conversations for a while. Let's get this road fixed and let's do something over there. So I was actually engaging with my team earlier this week on the plan to kind of finish that out. As you go down further west down Industrial, there's chunks of asphalt that's missing. So there's a little bit of a different treatment that's going to take place, but yes, you will see improvements on Industrial.
All the way to 95, of course.
That is, I'm engaging in conversations to take that over. That is the goal, and so there's something happening that I need to know more about in order to accomplish that goal.
My other question for you is often in Riverboat Drive, that whole section there, the roads are getting deteriorated. They need to be filled in with the cracks, because if you don't fill them in, you're going to have problems with water seeping into it. You did it before several years back. It would be nice if you look at it again and fill those cracks. You'll save you some money.
What's the road?
Riverboat Drive.
Okay.
It's a U.
Okay.
I thank you. I appreciate it.
Anyone else?
On the Main Street Commons, is that a place where we need to go through Parks and Recs to get permission to have something there? We do.
Yeah, so if you're just a user, as a citizen that wants to go down and enjoy it with your family, have at it. It's an open recreation area for you. If you want to have an organized event, like you were going to rent a Ramada at one of our parks, or you wanted to have a birthday party or a craft fair or one of those, then yes, you would have to come through the city to get that rented.
If you want to organize an event, whether it's a big event like Desert Storm or something on a much smaller scale, if you're going to utilize a city service or rent out a city facility such as the Main Street Commons, we ask you fill out a one-page or so application for a special event, and then work with our special event team. So sometimes special events will require street closures, or they might require the need for public works or fire or police or other things that take place. So we work with events all throughout the year and lots of events. But the short answer is yes. If you want to utilize that space, contact the city, and we'll start that process and get a better understanding of what you're trying to do there.
Well, I got a couple things if I can. I'll make
Please.
the first one brief. I thought of it earlier when you were talking about the visibility policy change between approving at 100,000 versus 50. Wondering what the financial impact of that would be. Your budget's about $250 million. Only a certain portion of that's discretionary spending. How much of that discretionary spending relates to that between $50,000 and $100,000 of approval? Is that a big amount, a small amount?
The number of items is 18, if I recall correctly.
So you're talking about like the difference between the 50,000 and 100,000.
Exactly, yeah.
So
What's a dollar?
You call them like discretionary funding. But we do have limited dollars within the budget. General fund is $1 million. And then in our water and wastewater, we have some dollars that are there for emergency use. And I think that's what you mean by discretionary funding. We don't have just like, here's a pocket of dollars, you guys can spend it on whatever you want. Everything is tied to something.
Let me rephrase it then.
Okay.
Of your $250 million budget, some of it is
150.
salary, some of it is buildings, some of it is lights. Those are all kind of like, you're going to spend it. How much of it is buying things? And then of that total, how much relates to that between 50 and 100,000. That's what I'm trying to understand, the financial impact of that change in policy.
Sure, I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but we can get it. So it's about 18, if you take a look at last year, it's 18 items that would not come before council that came before council. So 18 total items, which would have, so you can take 18 times 50,000 and.
75 probably, but
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, so, 50 would have already came, so the only difference would be the spread between $50,001 to.
75.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's the impact of what would not come before council. But as Jess said, most of our stuff is either mandated spending or, as you said, salaries, utilities, and the like. Anything else, we call the fund for discretionary, it would be contingency, which has to come before council. And then if there is a supplemental request, anything that's above and beyond. So hopefully that gives you enough information.
Good enough.
Yes.
Does that relate to hiring too? Between 50 and 100? Does that relate to hiring, or is that hiring separate?
Hiring separate, so the council approves the number of positions, and then Jess and his team from the operations side then would fill those positions based on what council gave through the budget process of positions.
So question number 2, you probably already answered it. I apologize. Answer it briefly if you did. I got here a little late. Stoplight at Jamaica and McCulloch, did you already talk about that today?
We did not, but it has been in the media and it is pending. We're going to be putting a stoplight at McCulloch and Jamaica. I know it's going to be very exciting. There's lots of people that use that intersection. It actually feeds 3 or 4 schools. So depending which way you're going across town, it feeds the high school, the middle school, and 2 elementary schools. So at those hours of the day, it's very, very busy. The timing for it, all of the work has been done from council, but.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these projects, as soon as like the dollars are identified through the MPO process or even through the budget process, then it triggers a newspaper article. Signal light coming at this intersection. So we've been hearing about that for a long time. But in terms of getting the design and getting everything prepped, we're ready to go. So our team is moving very, very fast. We'll see that within the next couple of months.
So was there a traffic study that
Oh, yeah.
was put together? Why was a signal the preferred option?
Over
Stop sign, lighted stop sign, dare I say the word roundabout, or any other modes. Generally, traffic signals are the last option for many reasons. One is they're somewhat dangerous in that people are coming into the stoplight 35 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour. So the impact of a crash is a lot more severe than someone coming into a stop sign at 5 or 10. And that's really my concern. I mean, I'll just cut to the chase. I'm not a big stoplight guy. They're expensive, they're dangerous, and they don't always result in in what we think they're going to. They don't reduce time spent at that intersection as much as we think. So that's my question is, what study was done and why was that the conclusion?
Yeah, so the study was done as we do with any traffic change we mentioned earlier. A full study goes through and is then recommended based on national standards. Unfortunately, what happened to this intersection that even allowed funding to become available for it was a fatality. And that was what allowed that to be. The modes that we use in Lake Havasu City right now for traffic control is stop signs, which we already have in that area. We also use traffic lights, but roundabouts are not really a popular thing in Lake Havasu City. Every time we mention them, even though they might be they might be efficient, but we just don't have a lot of support for those. So we take whatever the mode is that is going to be best, that meets the national standards based on the study. And again, fatality is what even brought the funding available for this particular one.
With that being said, Mayor, that we're talking about the second bridge earlier, there may be the best intersection for that area, and this is just in the conversation stage right now. We'll present to the public. We'll share the rationale and all that that's tied to it. But when I talked about like that coming off the bridge on London Bridge Road, right there, and the access to the state park, and then access on both directions, there are 2 options. One of them is to be considered by the mayor, council, by the engineers, by the public is a possible roundabout in that location. So.
Yeah. And did actually, it makes a lot of sense. So as those conversations occur with the second bridge, it makes a lot of sense because of the way that people are veering off. So if you want to continue on London Bridge Road, you just can continue to go. And if you want to get onto the bridge, you would get in some sort of a pattern, and then likewise on the other side. So, but more to come. And like anything, once it's familiar, that might be more of a suitable option for areas in the future. And we're always looking at and monitoring different areas. So.
I'm sorry, if you're not I'm sorry.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Okay, here you go.
Thank you. Question on the second bridge. Terminology is very important. You use the term design team and construction team. Does that mean a construction and design firm has been selected and that they have accepted whatever the bids or whatever you're proposing?
Yeah, so I use that term because we're building the second bridge with a CMAR, which is a construction management at risk. And Jesse, if you want to talk a little bit about we've hired the contractor and we've hired the design people. They're now talking to each other so that we didn't design a bridge that then the contractor comes in and says, well, that's weird. If you would have put this there, it would have saved you all of this money. That's one of the reasons why I just mentioned we're working with Arizona State Trust Land to try and realign our right-of-way because we can cut down the amount of the length of the bridge and save a considerable amount of money. It's because we have all of the people that are going to be involved in this at the same table during these early stages.
Thank you.
We're under contract with NV5, which is the design team, and we're under contract for the CMAR portion of the bridge construction with Ames Construction. And then there'll be, there's three contracts when it comes to CMAR, Construction Management at Risk. One, we get the design team. Two, we get the construction team to have conversations in terms of what the design looks like. So the design team says, hey, we should do these crazy little curves. And the construction team says, that's ridiculous. It's going to cost you way too much money to do that. How about we do it a different way? So having the construction and design team in the room right now on the early stages is so impactful in terms of the dollar spent to whatever else too. Once we get across the threshold and be able to deliver that application to the Coast Guard, at the same time, it'll be about a 20% design. And then the third and final contract, which is a guaranteed maximum price contract. So we have everybody in the room talking about what it's going to look like. We get to a certain percentage in terms of design. And then the construction team says, okay, we can build this design for X amount of dollars, guaranteed maximum price. And that'll be the third and final contract that comes before council, mayor and council, to make that happen. So that we're well on the way and almost across the finish line in terms of delivering that portion of the project.
Second question, concerning the thresholds of the budget from 50,000 to 100,000. At the last meeting, there were questions from the DS and from the public. If we could have a report as to what were those items between 50 and 100. It seemed like staff was having an issue with presenting that to City Council as a report. And I sat back as a member of the public wondering, that's just a simple question the public could ask. It's freedom of information. So it doesn't have to be difficult. Thank you very much.
It's not difficult. If you go to our website now and look at our agenda, that information's there. It's just that question came up on the floor from members of council, and the staff didn't have the information right in front of them. So they come prepared to answer the questions. They don't have their entire computer system with them when they're giving the report. So yeah, that information is available and it's on the packet. So if you have an interest, you can look at it before our meeting on Tuesday as well. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you so much for being here. But like we always like to end with some fun facts about Lake Havasu City. We talked about the Aquatic Center earlier, and believe it or not, the Aquatic Center is celebrating its 30th anniversary in Lake Havasu City. So we'll focus on that. It's there's going to be an anniversary party on May 3rd. More information to come with the Elks Lodge from 10 to 2. We'll have a short presentation, also a free open swim provided by the Elks, so great partnership there. But before the Aquatic Center was built, swimming lessons were taught in the lake. So we taught our youth how to swim in the lake. And then we went to Valley Manor RV Park, which had a small outdoor pool. When the Aquatic Center opened, there was so many children on the swim team that the kids swam across the pool, got out, walked around, and then repeated. More than 100 kids would swim that way. So they'd go across it, get out, come back, cross it, get out. When the pool first opened, there was a shipwreck boat slide in the beach area and a sand volleyball court outside where the splash pad is now. So out in the back, which is another spot potentially for this second pool. The sails used to hang from that used to hang from the ceiling were actually not decoration, but they were used as sound baffles, so that to kind of minimize the sound in there. The fire department, police department, BLM, Arizona Game and Fish, San Bernardino, and Mojave County Sheriffs all use the aquatic center to train their dive teams and their staff. There's 5 different types of waves in that wave pool. More than 800 kids take swim lessons each year at that facility. More than 65,000 people had open swim last year. Yeah, 65,000 people, so many people. On the dry side, so outside of the aquatic center, there's lots of facilities and rooms to use. We had 586 separate rentals of rooms and the gym last year, including gun shows, meetings, birthday parties, concerts, and sporting events. It's the largest rental space in Lake Havasu City, so if you needed rented a big indoor space, it's the largest. And the gym can be used for pickleball in the morning, basketball in the afternoon, and a concert at night, all in one day, and that's done multiple times throughout the year. And we have a commercial kitchen in there. If you've enjoyed the community dinner, that's where we're using and doing all of those things. A big thank you to Swan Cook, our aquatic supervisor, who provided these fun facts for us. So thank you. If you want to celebrate the 30th anniversary, stay tuned to our information and join us. I'd like to give a big thank you to Allie Blum from our office for coordinating this today, allowing us to be here. Thank you, Allie. Steve in the control room, making sure that you can hear us, and everyone that's watching from home can also see us. So thank you, Steve. And thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you for the honor of serving as your mayor. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.